One of the more important distinctions to understand is between reality and the map of reality. Now, reality is infinitely complex, and in its complexity is not reducible to the simplicity of the conscious mind. We cannot even fully keep up with what's going on in a single atom in real visceral terms. It's moving too fast. So what we do is we create concepts. The concept of an atom, the map of an atom, moving really fast. And it allows us to relate to something that is too complex to experience directly. In other words, what we experience as human beings is our map of reality and not reality itself. And the question is, how do we create these maps out of nothing? Because you have unconsciousness in the vast complexity of what is, in which all things are connected. And then you have consciousness. And it starts with the one, with the interconnected ecology. But that's too complex, and it's unconscious. And so we take this infinite complexity and we divide it into two. And we divide it again. Now we've got 4. Now we've got enough to start working with an equation. It's as if we take the unbroken line of infinite reality and we create a gap in the line and we insert the map of the equation. Now, the equation is made of distinctions. So, however many distinctions we divide the one into is the vocabulary of the equation and the ingredients of our map. So we have a fractal way of relating to this equation. We start off with a 26-letter alphabet, and out of that we create roughly 64,000 words. And then we combine the words in a variety of different ways. And that's our map of reality. It's not reality, it's our reference points to areas that we've broken into bits called words. We create a grid. We break reality into bits, and the bits are much simpler than reality. We haven't even gotten down to the smallest subatomic particle. And we certainly can't hold in conscious mind the complexity of a single finger at the subatomic level, at the atomic level. By the time we're done talking about what this atom is doing, so that we're now in touch with a little bit of reality, the other atoms have all moved. That's why we need to relate through the lens of language. And the lens of language takes the infinite whole and cuts it down to bite-sized pieces. I can think of a hand. That's a nice bite-sized piece that my mind can hold. But I can't think of 10 trillion neutrinos. And I can't keep up with them. So I'll just group them all together and call them a hand. A hand is a nice bite-sized piece of an interconnected reality that I can pretend is distinct. Now, it's not distinct because you can't have a hand without an arm. You can't have an arm without a body. You can't have a body without the male and female source that gave birth to the body. You can't have them without the entire lineage of the human race. You can't have the human race without the lineage of animals, without the lineage of plants. You can't have any of it without a planet. You can't have it without a solar system, a galaxy, a universe, a multiverse, a possibility field. And suddenly it's all interconnected. But I don't want to think about all that. And so I'll just call this a hand. We'll pretend that the artificial lines that I've used to grid out the infinite whole is, in fact, more real than the infinite whole. We'll pretend that reality is the map, is language. And this is where we get trapped, seduced into the equation, the dynamic map of reality, and the equation we use to construct that map. Now, you have the one, you have the infinite. We create our map of reality by dividing the one into bits and then combining them. And so one, which is infinite and non-existent, meaning if you just say all that is, nobody has a clear sense of that, so it's unconscious. Or if you say one, all, or if you say infinite bits, no one has a sense of that either. And so we weave an equation. And so the falling out of our connection with the one takes place as we construct an equation over time, within space-time. So we break the line, we break the circle, and we can now create as many diversions, as many complex relationships as we can imagine. We come down here, we say 2 plus 3 equals 5 minus 4 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 327 minus 2 plus 7. And this is how our mind works. Having cut the one into bits, in a sense, cut the whole into pieces, in a sense, cut the larger self into pieces. Because if there is no scientific partition, if for any one thing to exist, it must be in relationship with the things around it that exist. And in order for those to exist, they must exist in relationship with the things around them. Where actually is the end? How do you get the delusion that anything is separate from anything? And so we can create that illusion by cutting the world into bits, by defining patterns and then focusing on those patterns and combining them in a variety of ways. And we can create as many equations as we want, as long as we want. But ultimately, with the transcendence and or death of the conscious mind, the one that's creating the map and creating the bits, all the equations disappear. And we're back to the unbroken line. We're back to the unbroken circle, the unbroken sphere. We're back to one. And so the descent into human consciousness is the descent into language, into the knowledge of good and evil, into seeing through duality. And once you have duality, you have all the numbers in between. You have an infinite number of bits in the way that you combine and add. Once you have black and white, you have 10 trillion types of gray in between. It's an infinite continuum once you create polarity. So the descent into consciousness is the descent into language. And the return from history, the return from consciousness, is the transcendence of language. And a different kind of consciousness in which we become aware that everything is, and it's all connected. And that kind of consciousness is closer to the words of God, Goddess, all that is, because it's much bigger than being aware of one line, one boundary, one partition in relationship to another. Hi, I'm Dane Rose. All knowledge begins with a paradigm, and out of that paradigm comes an idea, an awareness that we adopt, reject, or synthesize into something better. It doesn't become wisdom, it doesn't become useful until we take action, until we integrate it into not only our thoughts, but our feelings, our body, our words, and our way of being. For that to occur, we have to move from the passive media paradigm into more active engagement. In the link below, in the More Information section, is an invitation to join a very small, deliberately filtered, high-quality discussion with a group of people who share a common language and want to work with these ideas, with me and with one another, with the sole goal of creating 10 times more sustainable well-being for ourselves and those around us per unit of energy invested. Thank you for watching.